But I was under the impression that this territory was held by the Americans.
You'll have no trouble getting from here to Fort West Point, gentlemen. There are no British soldiers on the west bank of the Hudson.
I'm glad to know you heard the same thing I did. Although it seems that someone might have been mistaken.
It does seem that way.
Captain, have your men bring the boats ashore and hide them. Establish your camp in that heavy growth of timber. Be on the alert for American patrols. If all goes well, I should be back by dawn. If I am delayed, maintain your position until I return.
And if you don't return, sir?
Now, what could possibly detain me?
Well, may I remind you, Major, if you're captured out of uniform, you'll be hanged outright as a spy.
A remote possibility, since I'm traveling on a pass signed by the Commandant at West Point. As you can see, Captain, everything is going as we planned. My negotiations are successful. The rebellion will be ended in a month.
Ah. What do you make of that? A civilian being put ashore by a large escort of British soldiers. I don't know, Mango.
Sir.
I hope I haven't kept you waiting.
No, sir, I've just this moment gotten here.
The rendezvous has been arranged?
Yes, sir, we should be there by dark.
Let's be off. Now, carry on.
Yes, sir. And good luck, sir.
Thank you, Captain.
I've got an idea that General Washington will be very interested to know about this.
Daniel Boone, what a doer, what a dream come true, what Daniel Boone. From a coonskin cap on the top of old Dan to the heel of his rawhide shoe, the rippinest, roaringest, fightingest man the frontier ever knew. Daniel Boone was a man, yes, a big man, and he fought for America to make all Americans free. What a Boone, what a doer, what a dream come true was he.
Hey, gentlemen, attention!
Carry on, men.
General, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Roby. I see the Rangers are engaged in one of their gentler pastimes.
Yes, sir. There's a gentleman waiting for you in the back room, sir.
Mr. Anderson. An old friend of mine. Fetch me a pitcher of hot rum, Roby.
Yes, sir. And a pot of honey and a dish of butter for a flavoring.
Ah, Roby, you know my weakness.
Come on, Purvis, you got him now. Bring the butter, slave boy.
General Scott?
Mr. Anderson.
We meet at last. Would you care to join me for a brandy?
Thank you. I prefer a more robust drink.
Do you think it was wise, General, to have planned this meeting in a roadside tavern?
A business meeting in a public place? What's there to be suspect in that? Or would you have preferred coming to my headquarters? Ah, Roby. Thank you. Now, would you see to it that we're not disturbed?
Yes, sir. And if there's something else you need, please let me know.
The Proprietor?
Friend of mine. A Tory sympathizer and a greedy man. He's already bought and paid for.
I accept your judgment, General. You'll excuse my nervousness, but this is my first experience as a spy.
But it's my first experience as a traitor.
Well, I must say, you have a most cold-blooded attitude about it.
I'm a businessman, among other things. I have merchandise to sell. From your correspondence, I assume you're interested in buying.
I'll listen to your term.
20,000 pounds, plus compensation for the property I stand to lose.
You drive a hard bargain.
On the contrary, I consider it extremely generous. As long as the Americans retain control of shipping on the Hudson River, Britain can't possibly win this war. Once they lose that control, the war will end within a matter of a few days.
I'll grant you that.
And so I sell you Fort West Point for the sum I have mentioned. 100 cannon, powder, shot, supplies, and a nation.
And just how do you intend doing this?
Is it a bargain?
If I think your plans are feasible.
Then listen very carefully.
You do it again.
Well, I don't know about you, Mingo, but I'm ready for some good hot food and a little rest.
Dad, don't tell me you're growing tired of my cooking.
I hate to tell you this, but you're possibly the worst cook in the world outside of myself.
Good evening, gentlemen. Come, sit by the fire and warm yourselves.
Well, now, would you look what just walked inside the door?
First time I've sat down in 2 days.
I take it you've traveled some distance.
From Kentucky.
A long way indeed. Now, what can I do for you, gentlemen?
Well, for one thing, you can tell us how much further it is to Fort West Point.
A little over 5 miles, but I'd advise against your traveling at night. There are thugs and highwaymen abroad, and if you're carrying anything of value...
I don't think we've got anything of particular value, but we'd kind of like to keep what we've got. I think we'll stay overnight if you can provide us with lodging.
As good as any in New York. $1 for the two of you for room and supper.
Sounds fair enough.
Perhaps you'd like a hot rum while I get the food.
Like a hot rum?
That sounds good, too.
Then make yourselves at home. I'll be with you in just a moment.
Purvis, what are you fixing to do?
I'm fixing to extend a personal welcome to that strange Indian who's come amongst us.
Oh, now, my, aren't you a wonderful man, even though you can't arm wrestle? I'll go with you.
Oh, what can we do for you?
We got this rule that says any Indian comes in here has got to stand a round of drinks.
Quaint local custom, I presume.
Well, no. The fact is, I just now made it up.
Well, why don't you just unmake it and go back over there and sit down with your friends?
Mister, I can see you're going to try my patience.
General.
Sit down, Mr. Anderson. It's just a barroom brawl. There's no cause for alarm.
Now you done it. You went and made me mad.
I got a feeling those two are downright unfriendly, Purvis.
Please, can't you do something?
Now, landlord, don't you fret. They're just trying to decide who's going to buy the drinks.
About that rule that the Indian always buys the drinks?
Well, I got that a little backwards. What I meant to say was, any Indian comes in here, I got to buy the drinks. Because his being here shows his courage, and I'm a man who appreciates courage. Stranger, you just knocked me further than I've ever been knocked before. And I got to admire you for it.
There you have the strategy I planned. You find it feasible?
I find no major flaws in it, except for one detail.
What's that?
The iron chain and log boom you have stretched across the river to stop navigation.
One link in that chain has already been removed. Sail your ships upriver. It's an easy task to separate the boom.
It seems you've thought of everything.
I'm a soldier, Major Andre.
Mr. Anderson, if you please.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Anderson. As I said, I'm a soldier, and as such, I do not commit myself without first planning my campaign.
How can I be sure that this campaign of yours is not a clever ruse to draw Sir Henry Clinton and his army into a trap?
As I have explained in our previous correspondence, I am disenchanted with the acts of Congress, violently opposed to our French alliance. I am also in desperate need of money. I consider those sufficient reasons for transferring my loyalty to the Crown, if I can be assured of my personal safety and adequate indemnification for my property. And I see no reason why my word should be questioned.
If you'll forgive me, you are presently engaged in violating your oath of loyalty to your country. The word of a traitor must always be suspect.
I suppose you're aware that I could have you arrested and hanged as a spy. I'll refrain from that, because I gave my word that you could cross our lines and return unmolested. The word is still good, but I can see we have no further business to discuss.
Sit down, General. You've left your rum unfinished. I apologize for my remark, but I must be positive about your attitude. Sir Henry would surely have my hide if I were to fumble such an opportunity.
Very well.
It seems we've discussed everything except the time. Or had you taken that into consideration yet?
Today is the 21st of September, allowing 1 day for your return and 2 days for Sir Henry to bring his army north. West Point should be in British hands by the 26th.
So soon?
There's a reason for the urgency. General Washington left for Hartford this morning to be gone a week. It must be done during his absence or not done at all.
I'll tell Sir Henry.
You'll dine with me here tomorrow night. I'll have diagrams of my troop disposition and plans of our fortifications.
I had hoped to return tonight.
I have yet to draw the diagrams.
And under the circumstances, I dislike carrying any papers.
I'm afraid there's no other way. If I send them through the post, they might be delayed.
Very well. Tomorrow night, then, at the same time.
Until tomorrow. Good night, Mr. Anderson.
Attention!
What's been going on here, landlord?
Slight misunderstanding, sir, but it's all been taken care of now.
If there's been any damage, bill them for it. I'll see to it that you're paid.
Yes, sir.
All right, back to the post, or I'll have every mother's son of you in irons.
Well, you heard the man. Let's go.
Landlord? I find I'll be staying over after all. If you have a room available.
Yes, sir. Right this way.
The civilian at the river. We didn't get a real close look at him, but that cape and those boots, there's no doubt that he's dressed the same. Coming ashore in a British boat for a private conference with the General of the Continental Army. Can you make anything of that? I could make quite a lot of that without stretching my imagination too far.
I take it that you both come to volunteer.
Volunteer? I just came to see General Washington.
Well, you got a long ride ahead of you. He left for Connecticut yesterday. Do you have any particular business with him?
All I know is that he sent for me.
Is your name Boone?
That's right.
Well, we've been waiting on you. Name's Tad Arlen.
It's my friend Mingo.
Mingo, howdy.
It's a pleasure indeed.
Does he always talk like that?
Well, except when he's talking Indian. You said you've been waiting for me, Tad. What for?
You mean to tell me you don't know?
Nope.
Well, I could tell you, but I reckon I ought to leave that up to General Scott.
General Scott?
He's a commander of this here post, and he don't like people taking on authority.
Where can I find him?
Oh, no, you won't find him around here. Accommodations didn't suit his taste, so he set up headquarters in his mansion house about a mile downstream. If you want to wait while I saddle up my horse, I'll take you to him.
The British are presently involved in a major attempt to cut the colonies in two. We are informed that Major Guy Carleton, with 600 soldiers and 200 Indians, is advancing down the shores of Lake Champlain in the direction of Schenectady and Albany. Sir John Johnson, with 600 regulars, has been joined by Brant, with 600 Indians, at Unadilla. This force will sweep toward the frontiers at the headwaters of the Schoharie. Now, our troops in this area are numerically inadequate to cope with such an overwhelming force. And it is General Washington's intent to create a diversionary action to relieve the pressure. In order to do this, he hopes to form a company of volunteers, 150 strong, all woodsmen and experienced Indian fighters. Now, this force will move west along the Mohawk, destroying the Indian villages. You, Mr. Boone, have been selected as their captain. Are there any questions?
When is all this supposed to get underway?
Oh, as soon as the men can be assembled and equipped.
How many men do you have today?
Well, they've been straggling in by ones and twos. How many would you say, Sergeant?
Oh, I'd say about 20, including myself, sir.
I'm afraid the response has not been as enthusiastic as General Washington anticipated. It's quite possible that you made a long and arduous trip, all for nothing. At any rate, nothing can be done until the General returns.
When is that?
Hopefully, within a week. However, that depends on how things are progressing toward the east. And now, if there are no further questions...
Oh, I almost forgot, General.
Yes, Mr. Boone.
Mingo and I saw some British soldiers coming ashore 10, 12 miles down the river.
British troops on the west side of the river? I'll have it investigated, Mr. Boone.
They had a civilian with them.
Oh, that would explain it, then. Undoubtedly a mail courier. They're permitted to go back and forth under a flag of truce.
You ought to know, General. You were with that man in that tavern down the road last night.
Oh, you mean Mr. Anderson. A merchant from New York. I did business with him in Philadelphia.
A merchant with a military escort.
A privileged character, Mr. Boone. He has dealings with both sides. It's not at all unusual.
Just thought I'd mention it. Something wrong, Mingo?
I've always thought of you as a sensible man, Daniel.
That's very nice of you.
But I'm beginning to change my opinion after that parting remark of yours. Was it really wise to blurt out everything you know?
I just wanted to see what he would do.
I hope you're satisfied.
Reasonably so. What I'd really like to know is what kind of merchandise Mr. Anderson deals in.
Hey, what are you two talking about?
Maybe nothing at all. Since we're in no big hurry to get back to Fort, why don't we stop off at that little tavern down the road? I'll buy the drinks.
Well, that sounds like a sensible idea. General George Washington in the Continental Congress.
How long have you been around here, Ted?
Oh, about a month now. I only live a little way upriver, so I reckon I was just about the first one to get the word.
What do you know about this General Scott?
Oh, about what everybody else knows, I guess.
Well, how much is that? Mingo and I are from the back country, and we're not too well informed.
Well, folks say he's married to this girl from Philadelphia. Come from a real rich family. Couldn't get along on what a general gets paid, so...
Starts to get more and more in debt.
That's right. I even heard he misused Army funds. If it hadn't been for General Washington, they'd have busted him clean out of the Army.
Is he still married to this woman?
Yeah. I've seen her a couple times when she come up from Philadelphia. She's a real good-looking girl.
Well, I reckon that explains it, then.
Explains what?
Well, I was just wondering what it'd take for a man to start dealing with the British.
General Scott?
It's beginning to look that way.
Well, I admit I don't care much for him, but I'd hate to believe that about him.
You'd best begin to prepare yourself.
Sergeant Arlen?
Corporal, what are you doing around here?
Looking for you.
Well, I'm never very hard to find. What do you want me for?
I'm taking you back to the fort, all three of you.
Well, do you mind telling me what this is all about, Corporal?
General Scott's orders. All personnel are to report immediately and be confined to the post until further notice.
Well, I don't suppose this would apply to Mingo and I. We're not signed up for anything.
It applies to you, so just get on your feet and let's get going.
What would happen if Mingo and I said we didn't want to go?
What are you thinking, Daniel?
Thinking we've got to get out of here. You know why he's keeping us penned up in here, don't you?
Maybe he didn't care too much for your topic of conversation back there.
At least we found out what we had to know.
How are we going to prove it?
Well, not by staying in here.
What happens if it turns out that we were wrong after all?
Well, we'd probably be heading back for Kentucky sooner than we thought, and probably a whole lot faster.
Purvis, I think you're bluffing.
I'll call you.
Dad, what can I do for you, Captain?
I need 5 or 6 good men to go over the stockade wall tonight.
You mean just bust on out of here? A man could get himself killed that way.
Not unless he got caught. What 6 would you pick?
Well, I'd pick me for one.
And the other 5?
I don't know. They're all pretty much alike. Say, any of you men want to get court-martialed? And you get shot to death?
I'd prefer that to fighting Boone again.
All right, Purvis. Anybody else?
What are you aiming to do, Tad?
We aim to get out of here come dark.
If that's the case, why don't we all go?
We need somebody to stay behind and cover for us.
Well, you just keep on talking, Captain. What are you planning on doing once we get outside?
Have any of you ever kidnapped a man?
What's he getting there?
No.
Well, you've got a new experience coming to you.
Are you fixing on stealing the general?
Not until I have proof of what I think. Right now, I'm fixing to take out after a Mr. Anderson.
As you can see, I've marked the chart with crosses to indicate the disposition of my troops. No one group will include more than a dozen men. Their capture should present no problem. Now, once they're prisoners, you can gain access to the fort itself by appearing at the gates in Continental uniforms. I'll make sure the garrison is a small one. Now, this is a detailed diagram of the fort itself, showing gun emplacement, powder magazines, storerooms for supplies. Do you have any questions?
I think not.
Then that brings us to the small matter of money.
5,000 pounds. The rest to be delivered when the fortress is secured. I believe that was our agreement.
Yes, that's quite correct.
You may count it if you like.
Oh, I hardly think that's necessary. After all, our business must be founded on mutual trust. Your health, sir. His Majesty the King.
Now, if you'll excuse me, General, I'm anxious to be on my way.
Oh, I suggest you hide those in your boot in case some highwayman tries to take your purse. They're quite damning evidence.
For both of us, the handwriting happens to be yours.
A gesture of good faith on my part. Good night, Mr. Anderson. If all goes well, I'll see you on the 26th.
Good night, General.
I almost forgot. You fellas go ahead. About Monaghan. I won fair and square, you know. It's a good game, too.
You know what you're supposed to do. Captain, don't you worry about a thing. We'll put on a good show.
Now, who's going to hit who?
Just get lined up with that door. I'm going to give you the first lick, because I figure I can whip you anyhow.
Corporal of the guard.
Get up! Attention!
Burke?
Yes, sir?
What's the meaning of all this?
All this what, sir?
All this brawling. What are you men fighting about?
fighting, sir. We weren't fighting, Lieutenant. Just practicing the art of hand-to-hand combat.
I hear one more sound, I'll court-martial a lot of you. Now get back in the barracks.
Yes, sir.
Are we all here?
All present and accounted for.
Sounds like the war inside's over. We better hightail it to those trees before the sentries take their post.
Captain, just one thing bothers me.
What's that?
How do we get back in?
Well, if I'm right, we'll walk in through that gate. But if I'm wrong, you better head for the hills because that's where I'm headed.
Sorry, but I'm closed for the night.
Well, this may come as a surprise to you, Mr. Rowley, but you just opened up again. Come on in, boys.
But I thought you were confined to quarters.
The general changed his mind.
Mr. Anderson, your guest, is he retired for the night?
Mr. Anderson, oh, he's the New York merchant who was lodging here.
Did you say he was lodging?
Yes, he left shortly after dinner. He must be well on his way to New York town by now.
Well, Captain, you tried, but I reckon we're a little late.
There's a chance those British boats won't leave until morning.
British boats? On the west shore of the Hudson? Well, the general should be informed of this.
The general already knows, Mr. Roby. Do you have any horses?
I have two, but they're both sorry mounts.
Purvis, you and Tatum saddle the horses. Mingo, you'll ride with me. Noble, you and Slade keep an eye on Mr. Roby. He may not be mixed up in this, but we can't afford to take the chance. The rest of you can follow me on foot.
Captain, you know it's 5 or 6 miles to Teller's Point. Now, that's a long way to walk. Wait a minute. I got an idea. There's a farmer living down the road with a wagon and a team. Now, that'd get us there a lot faster, wouldn't it?
Do you think he'd lend them to you at this hour of the night?
Well, Mingo, I was figuring he could be persuaded.
Let's go.
Figure on him getting back. Depends on what kind of trouble they run into. If they ain't back for dawn, I'm heading out. I got no hankering to face a firing squad.
The night's still long, gentlemen. Another drink or two might make it shorter. There'll be no charge, of course.
Well, now that's what I call real hospitable, especially for a man that's being held a prisoner. Here, I'll take it.
Drink up, gentlemen. There's more where that came from.
At least we know where he is. Now all we have to do is figure out a way to abduct him.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting, sir.
You take the sentry on the right. I'll take the other one.
You'll excuse my dress, Major, but it's rather late. I'd given up all hope you'd be here tonight.
I stayed off the highway to avoid the possibility of being robbed. Has the boat come up from New York yet?
She'll drop anchor sometime after midnight, sir. Shall I turn out the men and strike camp?
Let them sleep. Daylight will come soon enough. And I've been assured there will be no American patrols in this sector.
Well, then I assume your mission was successful.
Beyond my expectations. I have here a transfer of title to Fort West Point to be effective on the 26th. And here are the plans of the disposition of General Scott's forces.
Well, may I see those, sir?
Oh, I'm afraid not. The information will be confidential until Sir Henry Clinton gives his approval.
But,
I have no doubt that you will see them soon enough.
Yes, sir. Are you sure General Scott can be trusted to carry out his end of the bargain?
The handwriting is his warranty. If he fails, I'll see the plans fall into the proper hands, and he'll be hanged for treason.
Yes, of course. Well, if you'll excuse me, Major, I'll try and get some sleep.
A capital idea. Beautiful night, Captain.
Yes, indeed it is.
No cooking fires tomorrow morning, Captain. Men will breakfast on the boat.
Yes, sir. Good night, Major.
Good night, Captain.
What goes on out here?
Captain, over here!
Guard!
Keep going, Daniel. I'll try to hold them off until you reach the horses.
I'd never make it.
Judging from the sound of things, they didn't wait. Come on.
You all right?
Yeah. Well, the reinforcements arrived in time.
Captain, you went and did it, didn't you? Ain't he a prize?
I don't think they'll come at us anymore. When they find him gone, they might change their mind. Let's get out of here.
Gentlemen, it looks like you're going to have to carry Mr. Anderson.
Let me in. Let me in. I have no time to be announced.
General, I tried to keep him up. It's all right, Oliver. Let him in.
Yes.
Now, Roby, will you please explain this unwarranted intrusion? You were told never to come here.
Your pardon, sir, but this couldn't wait. They know.
Who knows what?
The Rangers, sir. They found out about you. They've gone after Mr. Anderson.
Oh, confounded man, that's impossible. I made sure they were all restricted to the post.
Then some of them escaped. They came to the tavern just as I was closing and held me prisoner. I just now broke free of them.
I'll wager Boone was with them.
A big man with an Indian friend.
That's the one. I should have had him put in irons. There's an irony, Roby. All my months of careful planning thwarted by an unschooled farmer in a coonskin cap. There's little chance they could capture Andre. He has a sizable escort of British troops. And without him, there's no proof. And I can have those Rangers up before a firing squad tomorrow. On the other hand, it's best to be prepared. It's possible they'll try to contact Washington. Oliver!
Yes, General?
See that a boat's put in the water and pack what personal belongings it can carry. There'll be a British frigate dropping anchor off Point Teller sometime after midnight. We'll board under a white flag.
Good night, sir.
Within the hour. And Oliver, dismiss the guards.
Yes, sir.
General?
Yes, Roby.
I was wondering what's to become of me. I dare not return to my tavern. My coming here to warn you proves my guilt.
Unfortunately, Roby, that can be a consequence when you start to dabble in intrigue.
But you could take me with you.
That was not part of our bargain. And I doubt if the British could find any use for your peculiar talents.
Then I'll take my money on a horse. The Rangers borrowed mine.
Money, Roby? What money? That's the penalty for failure. It seems that none of us will benefit financially. You're welcome to the horse.
But you promised me £1,000.
Contingent upon my being paid. I'm a poor man, Roby. Undoubtedly as destitute as you are.
But you were paid £5,000 this very night by Major Andre.
You were eavesdropping.
A man must look after his own interest. I'll take the £1,000, or I'll see to it that you do not board that British ship.
You're quite right, Roby. You deserve your pay.
Dead? Dead drunk. Or more probably drugged. Seems we underestimated Mr. Roby.
This is an outrage, sir. I am a civilian, traveling with written permission from General Scott. I demand that he be notified of this.
You can depend on that. You stay here, Mingo. I'm going to go after the general. We'll lose him now. Roby, who did this to you?
General.
Where is he now?
Boat. British. Waiting.
blast off, Oliver. I'm afraid our time is growing short.
Oliver, look.
Found these in Major Andre's boot.
Documents selling the nation.
The handwriting matches that on Major Andre's pass. Signed by the general. As if we needed any further proof. Daniel, this has been a most important evening.
I reckon so. But somehow I don't find much satisfaction in it.
I think I understand. Treason has a bitter taste about it.
It's a pity Roby's no longer alive. He made a most superior hot rum punch.
I consider that remark in rather poor taste, General.
Fortunes of war. Eat and drink. For tomorrow we die. Your health, Major.
I hate to break up this free liquor party, but we've got to get back to the fort. Somebody's got to take the news to General Washington.
Captain, you reckon they're going to let us back in?
Oh, I think so, considering we have the general with us.
Captain, you do me one little favor. When we go back in, put a gag on the general. He's liable to order them troops to shoot at us.
You think I couldn't be trusted to hear them talk, implying that I'd stoop to treachery.
Are you ready, General?
I'm ready, Mr. Boone.